Hello everyone, thank you for joining me again and welcome to any new viewers. This is To The Point English with Ben. I'm Ben, and in this video I'm going to explain the protégé effect, which might just be the best way to learn anything. I mean literally anything, but I'm an English teacher and you are English learners, so we can apply this effect to learning grammar and vocabulary. And at the end of the video, I'm going to explain how you can use the protégé effect to prepare for an exam. So what is the protégé effect? Well, first of all, I should explain what a protégé is, right? Well, a protégé is any person, usually a younger person, who is helped and taught by a more experienced person, usually an older person. So the protégé effect is quite simply learning by teaching. So when you teach something, you learn it much better. You get a deeper understanding of the subject. And there are a couple of reasons why I say that this is possibly the best way to learn anything. First of all, because of my first-hand experience as a teacher. So when I teach grammar, for example, some kind of complicated grammatical concept, I understand it much better. But there have also been numerous studies in recent years demonstrating the effectiveness of learning by studying and the protégé effect in particular. But this is not a particularly new concept. In fact, the ancient Roman philosopher Seneca once said, "When we teach, we learn." And more recently, the famous physicist Richard Feynman said, if you want to master anything, teach it. And he develops the Feynman technique, which is based on learning by teaching and the protégé effect. And you may have experienced it yourselves, maybe your teachers or parents, or any time that you have had to teach something to a child or somebody with less knowledge of a particular topic than you may have experienced it. Maybe a child will ask you, why are trees green, for example? And you may have a kind of general idea, something to do with chlorophyll and the reflection of light. But until you have to explain it in quite simple terms, you probably don't really understand it as well as you originally thought. And the protégé effect works because when a student has to explain what they are studying to others, it reinforces their own understanding of the topic. It requires this active recall, not just sort of passive memorization. So how can you implement this concept in a practical way for your English learning? Well, I recommend you take 3 steps. Now, the first step is quite simply to study what you want to learn, but it's very important that you study it with teaching in mind. So when you're studying the subject you want to learn, think that you're going to teach it to someone else. And this will make a huge difference because we learn much more deeply and make a greater effort to understand what we're trying to learn when we know that we're going to have to explain it to someone else. So for example, if you want to learn or revise the mixed conditionals, for example, in English grammar, while you're studying it, think, how can I explain this to someone else? Because that's quite a complicated grammar concept with lots of verb tenses, and you have to think about whether it's hypothetical or real, whether it's in the past, in the present. So it's a lot to remember and to absorb. But if you feel or you know that you're going to have to teach it to someone else, you're going to make a bigger effort and develop a deeper understanding of the topic. So the first step, study but with teaching in mind. The second step is to pretend to teach. So not actually teaching anyone in particular, not a real person, but pretend to teach. So it could just be in front of a mirror or just recording yourself maybe teaching, in this case the mixed conditionals again, or teaching an inanimate object, so literally a teddy bear or a little figure of some kind, or even a pet, anything that doesn't really understand and can't react, because you don't want to put too much pressure on yourself yet. Just go through the process. You haven't got to the point where you can teach a person yet. But by doing this, you're going to identify any gaps in your knowledge. You're going to realize, actually, I don't know this as well as I thought I did. And also you're going to be able to simplify it a little bit. And the process of simplifying something complicated will really help you to understand it and remember it in the long term. In fact, Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. So by practicing and pretending to teach, you can identify the gaps in your knowledge and simplify what you are teaching. And step 3, of course, is to teach. Now, it could be a brother or a sister, a friend, even a parent or a classmate, a study buddy that you may have found for your exam preparation, but preferably somebody with a less understanding of the topic than you at that point, because you're going to need to explain it as you would to a protégé. So you are the expert in this case, you are the teacher, and you're explaining or teaching somebody who has less understanding or less knowledge of the topic than you. And this is where you really reinforce your understanding, by explaining it in detail, having simplified it and gone through the whole process. You're really going to get a deep understanding of the topic. So as I said, I also think you can use this technique for exam preparation, because one thing is learning the grammar and vocabulary, so teaching and learning the vocabulary and grammar. Another thing is learning the format of the exam and the exam strategy. A big part of exam preparation is just understanding the exam and having a strategy and an approach for every part of the exam. If you're preparing for the C1 Advanced Cambridge English exam, for example, with a study buddy, then study the format and think about your strategy for time management and everything, and then explain it to your study buddy in quite a detailed way. Really go into details about exactly how you're going to approach every single part of the exam. And that will really help you understand it, because again, I share these tips on strategy in my online preparation courses, which I'm sure you can understand, but these are big exams, and to really absorb what you're learning and what you need to do, it will be so beneficial to teach it. So let me know in the comments if you feel that you've benefited from learning by teaching, this protégé effect. And if you need to learn more grammar before you teach it, then check out my online essential grammar course, where I teach lots of the most important grammar concepts in order to reach that advanced level of English. And I'll see you very soon for another video.